Hello there. Welcome back to our YouTube channel, My Project Ideas. And today we're gonna make this awesome looking, beautiful chat application, or maybe a real-time chat application. So, which includes the functionalities like the sign in and sign out. So let's just see. So it is using Google as sign in, and it will open this prompt, and it is logged in. Okay, so here it is my name, Mohit Asulia. So I'm signed as Mohit. So whenever I want to enter a chat room like uh, maybe MESSAGE message room. So this is the name of the chat room that I assign. And if this chat room is not already available, then it should be created. So let's see. Okay. So as here you can see, we entered in the chat room. And we can type any kind of messages here like hi, uh, how are you? As you can see, how beautiful is it? But not only this, so it is a real-time chat application. So we are also gonna see how it is working from different browser or different account. So I'm using the another account for login here. So on the local host, let's see. Let's sign in here also. Okay, just enter the room name we entered there. Message room and enter the chat room. As you can see, the messages are appearing here together with the date stamp. And if you want to enter any kind of messages here like yeah, I am fine. And as you can see, the message is entered here. And similarly, we can see that appearing here also. As you can see, it is real-time chat application. So yeah, let us look into the requirements. So for the backend side, we'll be using the Firebase database. The Firebase is, if you don't know, is the most popular backend as a service database provided by the Google. And it not only stores your data, but also provides you with the storage and real-time database storage, and also with the much more functionalities, and you can edit your own rules in it. And for the client side, we will be using React together with the Tailwind CSS. So let's jump into the code. So what I have done here is I created a new folder called real-time chat app, and we will open this folder in VS Code editor, by far the most popular code editor ever. And so for opening that, I will type the command here, code space dot, and it will open it in the VS Code. And now let's just see. Okay, it is open. And now let's just open the terminal. And for creating a React application, we will be using the Vite for building our application, not create React app. And for that, we will be typing the command npm create @Vite @latest, and I will hit enter. Okay, so it will give me some prompts like this, and I want to proceed yes, and it will generate our boilerplate code. The project name will be // because I don't want to make a separate folder inside this folder also. So yeah, absolutely we will be using React, and absolutely we'll be using JavaScript. And as you can see, the boilerplate code is generated here. And for the next steps, I will be running this command npm install, so that all the dependencies inside our boilerplate folder, the npm install command, because so all the dependencies inside our package.json in our project should install completely. As you can see, our dependencies are installed. So now it is time to set the Tailwind CSS into our project. And whenever you arrive on the landing page of the Tailwind CSS, just like the get started using the framework guides, and into the framework guides, just select the wheat if you are using the wheat. Otherwise, you can use another things like here mentioned if you are using any of them. So I will go with the wheat. So the first two commands we don't need, we directly need the third command. And just go into here, just let it install. And till then, I will copy this second command to initiate or initialize the Tailwind CSS. Okay, let it install. Okay, so here our dependencies are installed for the Tailwind CSS, and just initialize the Tailwind CSS by this command. And by clicking enter on this command, it will generate a new file called tailwind.config.js into our project root. Let's see. Okay, so these are generated, and now we're gonna follow the next steps. And the next steps are here. We have to replace this content array or content field in the tailwind.config.js. Let's go to the tailwind.config.js. I will close the terminal, and this is empty right now. We will replace it here by this. Okay, so the next thing is we have to replace those 3 lines in our index.css. So let's go to the index.css. Here it is. I will delete all the boilerplate code here and instead paste those 3 lines. And just below those 3 lines, I will normalize CSS. I don't know if it is working for you or not, but normalizing the things is the best way you can approach CSS and Tailwind CSS. So for this, I'll be giving all, after, and before to be margin of 0, padding of 0, and box sizing to be border box. And that's it, our CSS is normalized. And now let's just check by running the application. And for running the application, I'll be entering npm run 10. And it will run our application. Till then, we will go to our app.jsx and delete all the boilerplate code here. And instead, we will return a div. And inside that div, we will be giving it a class name of text of Excel and text of center. That's it. And we'll be writing here like hello chat application. Yeah, that's it. And let's just see if it's running or not. Okay, it is running on the port 5173, as you can see. Either you can control click here or go to your browser and just type localhost 5173. Okay, so as here you can see our application is running successfully, and together with the Tailwind CSS is also working fine. Let's go to the next step. And now it is time to set up our backend or Firebase, you can say. Now I will go into the console. Okay, here we're gonna create our new project called Create Project, and so here we will enter our project name like awesome, or maybe not awesome, React Firebase chat app. Okay, so continue with that. And we don't want Google Analytics for this project. Just create a project and it will create your project. Let's wait a little. A little more. And yeah, it's created. And just go to this project and see. And now we want to make it a web application. So just click on the web and you can name it here. And here I will name it to be React Firebase Chat. Okay, I will register this. And then it will gonna provide the boilerplate code for setting up the environment. So as you can see here, here are the commands. We have to install the Firebase into our React project and place this code in the application. So I will just copy this whole code and I will click continue to console and I will copy this code to our notepad. And yeah, because we will gonna use it later. As you can see, we are into our project now. So just click into the build and click into the authentication. And we are directed towards the authentication. Let's see. So just click on the get started. And we only want the Google authentication. So I will click on the enable. And project support email is my email. And I will click on the save. And so the authentication is set up correctly. And also second thing, I'm gonna click on the Firestore database. You can also use this real-time database, but we are not gonna use it because the Firestore database is as fast as the real-time database, but more efficient than the real-time database. That's why we are gonna only use the Cloud Firestore. So just click on the get started. And okay, so it's time to update our rules. So the version will be 2 here as it is mentioned, and for the service cloud Firestore this will not change, and this will also not change. The only thing is changing is here. We will have to define one more line of code here. Allow, create, update, delete, and write. To whom? If request.auth not equal to none. And that's it. So basically this means is that if the user is logged in. So as you can see, our backend setup is complete, and now it's time to implement our application. Now let's just go to the code. I will be removing these things from the app.jsx and also this line because we don't need it here. And then in the src folder, it will create a new file called firebase.jsx. And inside of it, we're gonna define, okay, so the library is installed, and we are also gonna use an external helper library for the Firebase, and that is React Firebase hooks. Okay, so that is also installed, and let's now run our application and see what happens. Okay, so our application is running. We will open it on our local host, and yeah, it's running perfectly. Okay, so now what we can do is inside our firebase.jsx, we can copy that code which we copied into our notepad. So let's just see. I'll just copy it here and remove those unnecessary lines. And also we're gonna create an import. Sorry, it was lowercase. Import dot meta dot env dot your API key, and similarly for this message sender ID, we'll be typing import, again short letters, meta dot env dot wheat sender ID. And for here, okay, now let's just initialize our application like this. Again short letters, which is equal to initialize app, and we have imported it here. And inside of it we will be passing our Firebase config, which we define here. And the next thing is we will be defining our auth. Let's just import the auth from our Firebase. Okay, so it's not auth, by the way, it's get auth. And we will get it here, get auth, and we will pass our app here, and we will be exporting this thing. And the next thing is export const db, or maybe the database, which is equal to and now let's just go into the app.jsx, and here we're gonna define our application logic now. And for the first application logic, we will be creating our a state called room, or current room maybe. Okay, let's have some space. Current room, set current room, which is equal to use state, and initially it will be an empty string. Okay, and the next thing is we're gonna get the user from the auth, so it is const user, which is equal to use state auth, and we will pass our auth here. So what are these things? So this auth is coming from the Firebase.jsx, and this use state auth will be coming from our React Firebase hooks. Import okay, so it is misspelled here, state. Okay, now I think it is fine. Use auth state, use state auth, not this state auth, instead use auth state. Okay, it's fine. And the next thing is we're gonna define the sign-in function for our application, or for the user. So let's create it, and it will be Google sign-in absolutely, which is an arrow function together with so this function will be asynchronous, and we will define a new provider here, which is equal to new instance of Google auth provider, and which is imported automatically. Okay, so the next thing is we have to sign in with pop-up. So let's just import that, or maybe just wait if it is automatically imported. So we will await sign in with pop-up. Okay, it is also automatically imported from the Firebase auth. So the sign in with pop-up. Inside it, we're gonna provide our auth and our provider, which we define here. And for the next line, we will be retrieving the user's credentials like UID or maybe the unique ID with display name and photo URL from our auth.current user. Yeah, that's it. And for the next line, we will add this user which we are signing in to our user database. And if it's not already added, it will add the user. So for that, I'll be defining a method called addDoc. And which is also automatically imported here, which is a Firestore method for saving the data in the database or adding a new document. And inside it, we will gonna type collection. And so the collection is not imported here. So we will just import it manually. Okay. So the collection is imported, and inside it, we're gonna pass our DB. So the DB is also not imported from the Firebase. With the auth, we also gonna import our DB or the database, which is defined here in the Firebase.jsx. Okay. So in the just after the first argument DB, we'll define this collection name as users. Okay. And it is a method, that's why we will be giving it a second object as name, which will be display name, and avatar, which will be photo URL, and created at field to be, it's created at field to be new, not new, but date dot now. Okay, so that's it for our Google sign-in function. So I'm using the manual date here for this created at field, so that there will be no hassle in getting our date, because I think I have some problem with the server timestamp of the Firebase. Okay, so that's it for, okay, we just forgot to pass UID here. Okay, now it is finished. And now let's just define the function for sign out. It will also be an arrow function, and it will be auth.signout. Yeah, that's it. And now it is time to define our elements. So I'll be removing this hello chat application here, and also this class. So our whole application is contained in a single div. So I'm not going to consider the semantics here, because our goal is to learn about the Firebase database and making the use of its real-time capabilities. So that's why I'm just gonna defining the divs throughout this application. And Now I will give it some styling like text extra large, W full, H screen, PX to be 5%, text to be center, font to be semi-bold, and it will be a flex and flex in column direction. If you are not understanding what this meaning, so you have to just read the documentation of the Tailwind CSS, so you can understand it better. And if you know the CSS better, it's a plus point already. You're gonna understand every single damn thing. And inside this div, we will gonna define another div. Let's give it some styling, and it will also be a flex, justify between, width to be full, height to be auto, items to be center. And inside that div, there is another div. Okay, so this div is the heading of our application. So let's just give it instead of this div, we can give it h1 and just write chat app, and let's give it some styling like text 3XL, font to be bold, text to be transparent. I will be making this text in the gradient form, so that's why I'm giving it some additional style. It will be background clip text bg gradient to right, and from red 600 to pink 900. That will be our color definition for this heading. Okay, let's just see. Yeah, fine. And just from the next line, we're gonna define another div. Not div, actually, it's a dynamic code block. And we will see if the user is here or not. And if it is here, we will do the conditional rendering. If it is here, then we will define another h2. And inside this h2, we will display the user.display name, so that if the user is signed in, then it will show the welcome text. So welcome user. And for the styling, let's not give it any styling. It is done for now. And for the next, we will define another dynamic code block, and inside it we will be checking the user. If there is a user, then we will just render a button, and inside of the button I will be giving a text to be sign out. And let's give it some styling. This button will be border black, and it will have border of 2. It will be rounded in extra large format, font bold, padding to be 4, and text to be center. Let's define the explicit width of 13 rems. Okay, so this is our sign out button, and for this button we will define the onClick function to be sign out simply, which we have defined here. Okay, so next for our sign in button, if the user is not logged in. Okay, I will be defining a button here, and inside of the button I will be typing Google sign in. Okay, so let's give it some styling, or maybe on click function beforehand. And for this button on click, it will be Google sign in. And for the styling, let's give it a class name of border black, border of 2, and rounded of XL, font bold, padding of 4 throughout the button, text will be center, and width of 13 rem. And that's it for our button. And just below this div, we will define another dynamic code block. If there is no user, then we will conditionally render this div. And let's give this some styling. It will be width of full, height of 25 rems, and it will be a flex, justify center, items to be center, font to be bold, and text size will be 5XL. And it will also be a gradient, so text transparent, and background will be text, background clip text, and dg of gradient to right. And for the color, I'll be giving it a from purple 600 to red 800. And that's it. And inside our div, I'll be defining some text like welcome to the chat application. It is just for the beauty purposes or some aesthetics. Sign in to continue. Okay, so that's it for our welcome text. And just below this, another dynamic code block. If there is a user, then we should render our components. So we haven't defined our components here now, so we will come back here. Okay, so we have to define our components now. In the src folder, just create a new folder called components, and inside the components, I'll be creating a new file called chat.jsx. I will just type the React snippet here. I'll create another one called room form.jsx, and inside of it I will also type RAFCE, which is React snippet for React import React arrow function and export default. Okay, so we have created those two components. Let's get back to our app.jsx and complete the code here. So if there is a user, then conditionally render. If there is a user, then also check if there is a current room. And if there is a current room, then just render the chat. So the chat is automatically imported from the components here. If it is not automatically imported in your case, you have to import it manually. Just be careful here. Okay, let's make it a component. And we will be passing some additional properties like set current room inside of the chat component. Set current room. Okay. And also the room property to be current room. So that is done. And just below it, another dynamic code block. If there is user, but there is no current room, then just render the room form. Okay, the room form is also automatically imported. So for the room form, it will take set current room as props. Okay, now it's time to define our room form. Then just go to the room form, and inside the props, I'll be passing set current room. Okay, and for this div, okay, just before this div, we gonna define a ref, use ref hook for our input of the room. So let's just define it here. And also imported from the React. As you can see, it is imported. Let's give it some spacing so that there will be no visible confusion. And let's give this div some styling like width of full, height of full, padding in y direction to be 4. It will be flex item center and justify center. And inside of this div, there is another div, and it will take the styling to be width of 22 rem, height of 22 rem. It will be a flex container, but in the column direction. Justify center, item center, and gap of 4 between its children. And its background will be slate 300, and its border will be rounded axle. Okay, so we are done for this div, and inside this div we're gonna define our h3 element, and inside this h3 element we will type enter the id to join the chat room. Okay, now let's also give some styling to our heading. It will be on the font semi-bold and text of 2x. Okay, and just after that we will be defining our input. It will be like this. So the placeholder for the input will be enter room ID. And let's give it some styling also. So the class name for this will be padding of 3 in all the directions, font medium, and when on focus it will be outline of none, and border will be of 2, border of gray of 500, rounded of large proportion, And the two more things we gonna need to define here, like ref, it will be input ref. And for the on key up, whenever the user want to submit that messages, then we gonna check if the key pressed is enter or not. If e dot key is equal to the enter, then just send message. Not send message, but something else, because it is a room form, not our chat form. So here we will be joining the room. So for that, set current room will be input ref dot current dot value. And yes, it will be like that. Okay, and one more thing is this input will be autofocus. So whenever we just so whenever this form appears, this input is already in the focus. That's why this autofocus will do this particular task for us. And just below that input, we will define another button. Not another button, but the first button for this. So syntax is not this button. Okay. And inside that button, we will have enter chat room. Okay. Let's give it some styling. Like padding of 4. It's PG blue, 400, 800 maybe. Text will be white, rounded off large, and that's okay, I think. And for this button, there will be on-click property, and which will be equal to set current room. Similar, it is similar to this one. So just copy paste it here. Okay, I think we are done with this form. Okay, so first of all, here we will define the props, which are room and set current room. Okay, and the next things is we're gonna define a state called messages and set messages. Basically, this state is going to contain our message array, which we are getting from the backend. And the second thing is we're going to set the message, or maybe the input message, which we are entering in the input. And it will also be the use state, which is initially empty string. So I should comment here, this is input. Okay. So our states are defined, and the third thing is our send message function. For that, I will be defining an arrow function. And the send message function will be asynchronous. And inside it, if we don't have the message. So for checking purposes, if you have given the extra spacing, then we will use the trim method for that. If it is empty string, then just alert that please enter the valid message. otherwise, and written, and not going, just stop executing this. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get the UID display name and photo URL from our backend or from the auth. So let's just get it. It will be UID display name and photo URL, which we will get from auth dot current user, and the auth is automatically imported from here firebase.jsx. And just after that we will call the method add doc. Inside this collection, and inside the collection we will pass the db as the database, which is also automatically imported from here, and comma room, which we are getting from the props. Okay, so just after that, as a second argument in the object, we will pass the text as message, which we have input, or which we gonna enter in our input box. MESS, okay, it is typo. Okay, and the name, that's who is gonna send the message. Then we will fill here with display name. And for the avatar, it will be photo URL, and created at field will be date.now. Basically this will give the current timestamp of the message, and UID finally. So this method is done, and finally if the message is sent, we will set message to empty string again. Okay, and we will scroll to bottom of messages instead. Okay, so our scroll to bottom functionality is not defined, so let's define it. So basically this function is complete, only scroll functionality is remaining. And for the scroll functionality, I'll be again using the useRef. So let scroll ref equal to useRef, which will be initially null, and useRef hook is basically used to accessing the DOM elements directly from the DOM. Not I don't want to go in depth in this. So useRef hook is basically used to access the DOM elements. So if I am defining the ref here, then I will giving this ref to some element in the our JSX, and that element DOM properties will be accessible to me throughout this ref. So we will give the scroll ref to some element later, and we gonna define its behavior initially, like scroll ref dot current dot scroll, and inside this we'll passing an object which have the top, and inside this top we will define scroll ref, not scroll ref dot current dot scroll height, and its behavior, I'm not sure it is spelled correctly or not, but its behavior will be smooth. Okay, remove that extra space. So our scroll functionality is done for now. And just after that, we will define a use effect. So whenever the component is mounted, this use effect will run. And now just also define the dependency array for this. And inside the use effect, so whenever this component is gonna render, it will call the API through the Firebase, which we will be retrieving all the messages stored there. So for that, I'll be creating a query, which will be denoting, we will be denoting by the Q, and it's equal to query. And this query is automatically imported from our Firebase Firestore. And just after that, inside this query, we will define our collection, and that collection will be DB and room. The room is which we are getting from the props, and DB is we are getting from the Firebase.jsx. And the next is order by. Don't worry, these functions are also from the Firestore, and we will be importing just after defining them. So that is created at, and the next thing is limit, which will be 50 for now. And for the collection and order by and limit. Okay, everything is imported correctly. Okay, and our query is also defined. So the next thing is we're gonna do is we have to implement a cleanup function. We are not gonna run this, not going to run this query whenever our component did mount, but whenever our component unmounts. So it is something related to refresh of page. So whenever you click on the send button, so it will check if the database has any new thing or not. Then it will just populate the front end with the messages. So this is unsubscribe, written this function. So we have defined our query, and the second thing we're gonna define an unsubscribe event. So it's like const unsubscribe, and it will take on snapshot. So basically on snapshot is a function provided by with a Firebase, which will hit the query whenever any change in the database. So suppose like I have hit the send button for the messages, and I stored that message to the database. But how do we know that we have to populate, we have to refresh again? So on snapshot will automatically call our this query whenever our database is changed. So it will take in parameter called query snapshot, and it will be having an arrow function. And for the query snapshot, let's define our empty messages array. And whenever the query snapshot, then for each Inside that, we'll be getting the documents. For a particular document, I want to do is messages.push, because we have defined this messages array here. Messages.push spread operator doc.data. If the doc has already that data, then doesn't push that. It is the previous data, not date, it's data. And the new data will new thing will be id, which is equal to doc.id. And yeah, that's it. And just after that, we will set messages to messages. So let's see that this messages and this messages are spelled same. So this can cause error. I'm not sure, but I'm not going into the details. But for the safety purposes, I can type this as these messages, okay? And similarly here also. And similarly here also. Okay, so our unsubscribe function is ready. And whenever the component did unmount, we're gonna pass this function in cleanup event. Okay, we are done for our use effect now. And we are also going to implement another use effect, so that whenever the messages changes or a new message is added to our queue, then it automatically scrolls down to the newest message. So use effect, inside that an arrow function and a dependency array, which will take messages. And inside that, we'll be defining scroll ref.scroll ref.current.scroll. Okay, let's cross check here also. Okay, it is good. Scroll inside that object. Inside it, we will pass top to be scroll ref.current scroll height, and its behavior to be smooth. Okay, so we are done for the logic. Let's define our elements here. So the div is created already, and we're gonna create this. We're gonna give some styling. Let's give it some class name. Okay, so here it is. And let's give it the class name of empty of 4, width of full, p of 4, not p of 4, but border of 2, and background of slate of about 200, and it will have the shadow of axle. It will be rounded in axle, b4, and height to be about 80%. And next is, it will be a flex container, flex in column direction, and its position will be relative. Okay. And inside here, we're gonna define another div. And for that, we will give it a class name. And this class name will be absolute. Its position will be absolute. Left will be 1. It is basically exit button. And top will be 1. And padding of 3. Text will be white. And background of red. Of about 500. It will be rounded. Of about XL. And text will be of small size, and Z index will be 30. Okay, I hope so. I have not done anything wrong. Okay, so define the text. It will be exit, simply exit. And just below that, there's another div. And in this div, we will give it some styling. And styling will be width of full, overflow auto, height will be of 90%. Okay, and its padding top will be of 10. Okay, so here are we done for this side. And do you remember this scroll ref? We have defined this for this box. So let's give it a ref of scroll ref. And we are done with the scroll functionality. And inside it, there will be a dynamic code block inside which we will getting the messages. And messages dot, if the messages are available, then we will map them each message through something like this. It will be the current, and we will written something like written here div, and inside the div I will be typing a message. So we haven't created our message component till now, so we have to create that. And okay, our messages component, and just after that we're gonna define another div, and this will be having the styling of width of full, rounded of LG, and text of SM. It will be flex and justify between as absolute position, and it will have bottom of 2 and left of 0, and the padding in X direction will be of 2, and the gap between the children will be of 2. Okay, and just inside that div we're gonna define our input. Okay, so the input will be of the type text, and let's define the on key of event. So whenever you want to click on enter to submit the message, this logic will handle that. If e dot key equal enter, then just send message, or yes, send message, and it will be autofocus, and its value will be message. And we are gonna make this a control component. So for this we also have to define define the on change event for this. And for the on change, it will take an event. So set message will be e.target.value. So it is perfectly controlled component we have defined. So every time user hits a key, the change is reflected over there in the messages. And the next thing we're gonna define is just after the input. Okay, let's give this input some styling also. So the styling will be like this. Okay, let's have some space here. And just after that, hit the class name. And for the class name, it will be flex of 1, padding of 3, and it will be rounded. No, it will be of, I think, overflow auto, border of 2, rounded of axle. And just below the button, there will, and just below the input, there will be a button. It is completely optional that you want to click on a button to send the message. It is for the mobile users. So inside the button, we will be tapping the send, and let's give this button some styling. And for the styling of the button, it will be of a border of 2 and padding of 3. It is just similar to the input box. Rounded to be XL and background of green, and it will be about 600, and text will be white. And let's just handle the on click event. So whenever we click on this button, it will hit the send message function. Okay, so our chat.jsx is finished. Partially finished, not finished, because we have to map the messages in here. So for that, we have to create a new component called message.jsx. Okay, I will be typing the React snippet, and it is created. So the message component here will be taking some props, which will be is of user. Basically, this prop is for identifying if the message is if the owner of the message is a user or not, so that it will be very useful in separating the messages of ours from the rest. So it will be initially false, by default false, and text, which we will be getting from the Firebase database, and it will be initially or by default an empty string called initially empty. Okay, it is having some trouble. Okay, so it is initially empty, and the third one is image source, and the fourth one is user name, which is initially empty. If it is not provided, this default will hit. And one last field is created at, which is absolutely the timestamp or the date stamp. Okay, so it's time for creating our message component, and inside here, this div, let's give it some styling. It will be a class name of okay, so it will be dynamic one. So whenever it is it is of the user, so the message is sent by the user, then it will appear on the right side of the screen. But if it's not our message, it is someone else's message, then it will appear on the left side of the screen. That's why it needs to be dynamic. So inside the dynamic, we will use template string literals, and it will be something like bg transparent, width of full, it will be flags, and text will be white, and will have the gap of 2. Text will have a small size, its margin bottom will be of 2, and here comes the dynamic block. And inside here, if is of user, I mean this message is of user, then we're gonna just give it justify to the end. Otherwise it will be justified to the start. Okay, so that's it for our styling. And inside that div, we're gonna define a dynamic code block here. And if is of user, if the message is not of user, then we will gonna have this another div. And inside that we will have an image, and its source will be image source, and alternative text will be avatar because it is of the avatar image. So let's give it some styling. To the parent div, it will be rounded of about 3 rems so that it will be rounded fully. Overflow is hidden, and width of 2.5 rems, 2.5 rem, and height of 2.5 rem. And just for the image, it will have the width full, height full, and object contain property. And yeah, that's it for this dynamic code block. And let's define another div. For the div, this div will contain our text. So just I will be placing just the text inside it. And for the styling, it will have the width of 15 rem something, not something, exactly 15 rem. Padding of 4, text to be medium. Okay, let me just redefine it. Okay, text SM. So basically it will gonna be normal size. So text will be aligned to the start, and it will have the background blue, and blue of about 600. Okay, it will be rounded, XL, height will be auto, and its position will be relative. And finally we will give it a padding bottom of 8, or equivalent to 2 rems. Okay, so here is defined, and just beneath the text we're going to define another children div, and inside that class name it will be of dynamic type. So let's just define it in a block with template string literals. It will have bottom of 2, text of XS, extra small size. It will be font of light, and its position will be absolute, as you guessed. And for the dynamic thing, it will be if the message is not of user, then we will define it to be right, align it to the right of 4, otherwise left of 4. Yeah, that's it. And inside that we will be making our date stamp. That will be new date object, and we pass the created at here and to date string. And we are done for here. So what thing are we missing is nothing. We are missing nothing. And just after that, one final thing is we have to define another dynamic code block if I think it is similar to this. So let's just copy it. So if the message is not for the user, but if it is for the user, then it will difference something like here. Okay. If the message is not of user, so what it's basically mean is if the user is if the message is of user, then the image will appear on the right side of the text. But if the message is not of the user, then the image will appear on the left side of the text. And that's it. Our final component is also finished. Now let's just complete our chat component, where we have leave those messages mapping here empty. Okay, so in this return, instead of this div, we're gonna type the message, and we click enter, and then it is automatically imported for here. So for that, we have to wrap it in like a component, and inside of this we're gonna provide the props. And for the first, never ever forget to define a key. So for the key, it will be current.uid, and username will be cur.displayname, and text will be of cur.text, and image source will be cur.avatar, and is of user. Basically these things I should define just after showing you the database, but I'm doing it before so that the understanding of the code will be easier and easier. Every time you're gonna iterate over this. Is of user and auth dot. So basically this is a condition if the message is of user or not. So when do we know that the message is of user? So when the auth dot current user is equal to the owner of the message, which is cur dot name. Okay, the current user dot display name, otherwise it will throw an error. Okay, and the one last property we have to pass is created at, and this will be cur dot created at. I think we are done now, and let's just check if our application is working or not. Okay, so till now it is working fine, and let's check the auth. Okay, it is giving me it is taking time, a little amount of time. So yeah, I'm gonna click here. I'm gonna choose the email. Okay, so it is giving me error. So let's just check what kind of error is this. Okay, so the above error occurred in room form component. So let's just check. Okay, so I found that what was that error? It was in the room form.jsx, and basically the error is the use ref is not defined correctly. It is a typo. So we have defined user ref instead of use ref, and also here. So let's just fix it and check if our app is working fine or not. Okay, so it is working fine. Let's just type the room name like messages, and I will hit enter. Okay, so it just entered this room, and I'm gonna send any message here like how are you? And I'm gonna hit enter. So nothing is happening. I'm gonna click send also, nothing is happening. So it is good if you get errors. It means that you are progressing. So let's just check what is the error here. So it is saying that reference message is not defined. Okay, so it is another typo. So let's just check what is it in the chat.jsx. Okay, so another thing I have found out to be a typo is this. We are getting from the current user display name, which is a typo. It should be display name. Let's just fix it and check. Okay, so just enter the message like hello, how are you? And I will click on send. Okay, it is still giving me errors. And now let's just try. Okay, so yeah, message is submitted as we can see, but it is not displayed here somehow. So why it is not displayed here? So there's an uncaught exception. Okay, so our message submission was successful. So what else is remaining is we have to set this set current room to empty whenever we click on the exit one. So let's just go to the exit button here. So whenever we're gonna click on this, we just set to be an empty string. Okay, so let's just check if it is working or not. Yeah, it is fine. So the only thing here wrong is our messages are not rendered here. So let's just check. Okay, so the typos here I noticed were these things. First of all, you have to remove this query snapshot from the Firebase file store because we are getting the snapshot from this function itself. We don't need another one. So another thing is it will not be an arrow function. Instead, it will be a value written by this onSnapshot function. So whenever the cleanup function hit, so this unsubscribe value is written. So that's why it was not working. And the third thing I was getting that it was changing the rules. So it was initially read write if false. So you just have to change this line, allow read if true. Then it will gonna work 100%. So let's just see if it is working or not. Yeah, fine. It is working very effortlessly. But there is a little thing that is mistaken with the layout of message. So let's just check what is problem in the message.jsx. Okay, so the typo in the message.jsx I found is this. This should be flex instead of flx. So now let's just see. Okay, it is working like breeze. And if you want to send any kind of message here, hi, how are you? I am fine. And how is work going on? And Eureka, it works perfectly. So we don't have to just check from the single-ended user, we also have to check from the multi-sites. So for that, I'm opening another browser window with my another account. So localhost 5173, and it will appear like this. Let's just sign in, and it will sign it itself. So let's just wait a little bit. I will be clicking on this account. Okay, just enter the room ID called that was messages, and here you can see the messages. And suppose if I want to type a message, hey, I am fine. Everything is super fun. Okay, this message is also going from our side and immediately updating the window here. So yeah, that's it for our chat application. And not only that, if you want to join a new room, like a new room, it will be a new room. And for that new room, hey, here is new room for the chat. So yeah, the message appear here. Similarly, I am exiting from here. I will go to new room and the message will appear here. Okay, so now we're gonna wrap up. Okay, so we are gonna wrap up the things now. These were the only things that were needed to make our Firebase chat application. And the Firebase is a very easy to understand database or backend as a service. You can use multiple things in it like that. There are multiple extensions for this thing. That is not Firebase sponsored video, but okay. So if you want to sign out, just click on the sign out and it will sign you out. Once the Google authentication took its place, it will automatically remember all the sign-ins and sign-outs. We don't have to worry about it. If you want to explore more such ideas, then hit the like button and hit the subscribe button on our channel, My Project Ideas. Okay, bye.